Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Fireside Philosophy. This episode is also the season finale of Fireside Philosophy. Today, I have business teacher at Abington High School, Mrs. Howell, joining me. How are you doing today, Mrs. Howell?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm ready to get into this conversation. Last episode here, nice philosophical conversation about the economy, financing, money, all that good stuff. So, why don't you explain to the audience kind of your background in business?
So my background is I went to UMass Amherst for both my undergrad and my grad degree. I graduated with degrees in accounting, and that was my major. I have a CPA. From there, I went and worked at a smaller public accounting firm, and then from there I went to work at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Boston for a few years. And then I went and worked at a private equity firm. And then I spent 1 year at an entrepreneurial startup that didn't go very well. And teaching was something that I always wanted to do. So I was like, now's the time. I've got to find a new job. I'm not really into accounting anymore. It was great while it lasted in my 20s or so, but then now I've been here this is my 6th year, end of my 6th year.
Yeah, awesome. Well, as the audience can clearly see, you have quite the experience in like financing and with the economy, and now you teach it to your students. Mm-hmm. So let's get into this. I mean, the economy is something that definitely is strange to me because it's something we all just like agree on as a society. We give money value because we decide to. So that's something that's always interested me. And then, there's the financing aspect of things. And why do you think it is that, people struggle to finance their money?
I think even if you do know the right things to do and you do understand the whole economy thing, it's also a big psychological thing.
Sure.
It's all about, it comes down to what you want and what you need. Yeah. Right? And a lot of times those wants really start taking over. Yeah. And you can get yourself into a lot of trouble, I think. So it's good to get a good understanding of what's important to you. Is it, going on vacation? Is it having a big house? Is it driving a nice car? Or is it just, being happy and working maybe only 40 hours a week or so? Sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think I definitely agree with kind of choosing which wants you want to prioritize because, if you try and spread yourself too thin, you do see a lot of people struggle financially and start to get into trouble like you said. So it's really interesting how some people are really able to find that one thing. Maybe it's vacations. I want to take I don't know, let's say someone says I want to take one big vacation every year. That's what I save up to. So I'm not going to buy a big house or big car. And then they have that one vacation and it's great every year. But then you have other people who, I want this car and this house and this vacation, and then they're the people who tend to struggle. So.
Yeah, it's all about budgeting and making sure that you have your priorities where you want them to be. And a lot of people also, you'll look at your neighbors and you'll see they have a really, a brand new car and it looks like it was really expensive. Right. Well, they could have a huge loan on that. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that they're doing much better than you. It's just they're, in a lot more debt than you
Right, are. Yeah, sure. Do you think that seeing other people and that kind of competitive nature of humanity also fuels issues when it comes to financing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think the social media is making it even. Oh, yeah. It's really having a huge impact on you're seeing people's best life, right?
Right.
All the good stuff. So
yeah.
You see that stuff and you're like, I want that too.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think social media is definitely a big aspect of even different social media scams or advertisements also can play into messing with people's financial stability and messing with their financing. Yeah. So I think that's another big part of it. And yeah, I would definitely agree that even seeing on social media what people have I want that too, maybe I'm gonna try and buy something like that. And it really does put people in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and companies now, they make it so easy. You're scrolling through and you're like, oh, I would like that, and it's just click. Oh, my card's already saved on my phone, and then you're paying for it, you know.
And then even like with shipping nowadays, it's there in like 1 to 2 days, and it's like instant satisfaction. You know?
It is. It really is.
That's definitely dangerous. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like even I have like been victim to like seeing something I want and just like buying it and then getting it, and I'm like, I don't need this.
I know.
Yeah,
It hard
gets
to
everyone.
return.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. And then how is it different with like business financing compared to like personal financing? Because obviously it's very different. So how do like the differences come in?
So I think with business finance, it's not as much of a psychological thing.
Yeah.
It's more of, there's usually a lot of people that are involved.
Yeah.
And so your decision it's not an easy thing. Like in a business, you can't just, click on your phone and just order it.
Right.
I mean, maybe you can if you're a smaller business, but it's more of, you need to go talk to somebody, get it approved, get a payment made. So you've got to go through a few more steps in order to get that financed.
Yeah, so it's much less like impulse based than say like online shopping or seeing ads on like social media would be.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot more planned out.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's why like they have people at companies that are there to help finance the company and to help like run the economic side of it, because if someone is an entrepreneur, let's say they're making like surfboards or whatever, like what do they know about like financing a company? Because it is so different than like doing personal finance.
Right, yeah. So a lot of times you can hire out and have somebody come in and work for you, or you can, hire a company to try to help you out with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you have to bring your idea to the bank or to investors or to somebody, because you're gonna have to borrow money, to make it to the next step.
Yeah, for sure.
Most times.
Yeah, I think like so many people kind of like just like everyday people fall like when you have so many different payments, like you have to make like, let's say you need like a car payment, like your house payment, on top of like electric bills, like different insurances and whatnot. I feel like a lot of people fall into this area where like they don't realize how much money they really like have available that's separate from like what they need to pay, like let's say every month. So I think that's like another issue entirely. Like how much money do you actually have if you're not trying to go in debt?
Right. It's all about budgeting. So you want to take a look at how much you're actually bringing in a month, and cut that up into pieces of what do you need to make payments on, what can you get rid of, all of that, so that you're not overspending every month. And you also want to make sure that you have some savings in there.
Right.
You want to make sure you can save for that car when you need one, or for college for your kids, or retirement. All of that stuff comes into play, and you need to really think about what you're doing with your money. Yeah,
that's something that I don't even really think about, because I have 2 jobs, and like with my money, it all goes into the same spot. And I'm fairly good about not like going crazy and spending all my money, but I don't work like. I think I need to be even more careful about like setting up, like my parents have like an emergency like account, and like if they needed money for like whatever emergency, whether it's like a medical emergency or like a car accident, God forbid, but like they have like all these different like things set up, and I'm like, I didn't even think about that. Like I just have all my money in this one spot. But
right, but your parents probably have a lot more bills than you do, because if something happens, right, they need to pay for that house.
They definitely have a lot more bills than I do. But yeah, it's just so interesting to see like the different levels of like complexity people have when it comes to like financing. And now like that I'm starting to look at paying for college, this is like the first time it's really like hit me.
Yeah.
Like I need to kind of figure out like how much I want to pay, how much I want to do like with loans, because that's like a whole nother animal in and of itself. What's kind of like your experience with that when it comes to like the psychology, I guess, of like the college payment, because that's like a big thing.
Oh, it's a huge thing, yeah. So I think attitudes have really changed, I've seen, since I first started 6 years ago and to where you're at now. I think 6 years ago there was a lot more of, well, this is where I want to go, so this is where I'm going to go.
Right.
I mean, my grades said this, and I'm going to go to school, and I'm like, well, you have to pay that back. Those are loans. So I think it's, you really got to think about what you can what you're going to do with that degree when you
Right.
leave college. If you're not going into a profession where you can repay your school loans, because college is an investment. You
Yeah,
know, a lot of
for
people
sure.
think of it as like just your next step. Well, you're putting money into something to get something out of it and
Yeah.
to have a better career option. So, you know, you really got to take a look and break everything down with that financial aid letter. That should really be what's driving your end
Yeah.
decision, is what the
Right.
bottom line is.
Yeah.
And what you can afford to pay back,
Right.
because you don't want that eating up all of your salary for the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's like such a scary thought. Even like the idea of just being like in debt for like 20, 30 years. Like,
Yeah.
just, you know, like I even think like I don't want to be in debt for like a week. Like I'm even like thinking like, oh, like if, you know, I drive like my parents' car or whatever, I want to like put gas in it or whatever. Or, you know, like owing people money. I try like every time like, oh, like Venmo you the money if I owe you money, like no loose ends type of thing. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like scary to like have that like hovering over your head, like, oh, like that money, you have to pay that back at some point.
Right, and if you're paying those loans back, it's stopping you from doing a lot of other things. Like people are waiting longer and longer to buy homes, to save for retirement, and
Right.
you know that can be scary.
Yeah, especially when I mean, you only have so many like years to save for retirement, or you know, the longer you wait, the you know,
The
longer you're
harder
gonna
it
have to
is.
wait to go to retirement.
Yeah,
So, it's just crazy that like, you know, being like an adult now, like I'm starting to make decisions that like could go all the way to retirement. So it's
Yeah.
like, that's the thing.
that's crazy. It is
Yeah.
crazy because you're making a major life decision at 18 years
Yeah,
old.
it's
you know?
crazy. Yeah.
It's a ton of money.
Yeah, it's definitely like the first thing that's like beyond anything. Like when it starts to get into like thousands and thousands of dollars a year, it's like I've never even like seen that much money in one place at once. You know what I mean? Like it's just like crazy amounts of money. But you're right, it is an investment. And I know like for me, I really like was like doing a lot of research to make sure like, okay, I will get like what I need out of this school, and like this school is like a reasonable price for me, and I think that like it's doable, and I'll still get what I need to know and what I like need to learn. And they have a great, I'm going for like film and TV production, so they have like a great film and TV production, you know, at Fitchburg. They have a great program. So I really do feel like I'll get what I need to get out of it to get like a good job, to be able to pay that back in a reasonable amount of time and move forward. So
That's great.
I'm hoping for the best. But
Me too. I'm glad you've thought about all of that.
yeah, it's definitely like a big thing I considered. But I was also sure to make sure that I'm still getting everything I want out of it, and I'm confident that I will. You know, what's nervous is, you know, you don't want to go just because of the price tag if, you know,
Right.
it doesn't have what you need. So
Exactly.
it's a scary balance there.
Right, and you want to be happy there too.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
You know, you don't want to be uncomfortable somewhere, and you
Right.
want to be in the right setting. You want to, you know, be either close enough or far away enough
Right.
from home.
Yeah. And I think like you can even like use the same logic for like a house or a car, right? Like, you know, do you want to like spend all this money in similar situation? Like, do you want to be in debt for this amount of time and get like XYZ feature on your house? And I think it all goes back to what you said at the beginning. And I think this is what financing is. Like, what do you need and want the most? Like, what does having like 2 separate bathrooms matter more to you than having a pool in the backyard? Or like, what really like
Right.
is important to you? And that's why I feel like there's no like surefire answer to, like, there's no one way to do it for everyone.
Right, and it's also about thinking about everything that goes along with those costs. Like, it's great if you want to go to school somewhere in, like, I don't know, California, but
Sure.
you need to think about, like, well, how much is it going to take or how much is it going to cost for me to travel to California? Or if I get that pool in my backyard, how much is it going to cost every year to run the pool filters
Right,
and the
and
chemicals
maintain
and
it,
all that
yeah.
and maintain? Yeah, so that's another important thing
Yeah, for sure.
that people don't think about a lot of times.
Yeah, I feel like people do, because even like I was thinking with college, like, okay, like I spend this much money, but that's not like all I'll be spending. I want to get like food, and, you know, I want to maybe like go to like a movie or sports game. Like, that X amount every year is not like the end all be all. There's
Right.
like so many other things that like I probably like will be paying for as well, and like I want to have some money to be able to like spend at the same time. So it really is, I think, just like what is most important and
It
most
really is,
necessary. It varies from person to person.
It definitely does. It's a delicate balance too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Because you know you don't want to go into too much of what you want and then kind of lose like the need, because you know what you need what you need. So it really is what it is with that. There's not much wiggle room. Like, you know, I would argue that you need heating in your house, you know, like
Right.
during the winter. Like, I can't be like, oh, I want this nice car. Looks like I'm not gonna have heating, or, you know, not gonna have running water.
Yep.
So
Gotta put your needs first.
yeah, for sure. Because even the thought of like not having those things is just like unthinkable, you know? You don't want to get to that position.
No, you definitely
And
don't.
I feel like it's so easy to, and that's like what's scary.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there's so much that goes into it, financing, you know, because you have your wants and your needs, but then there's also like, I thought of like, what about like even like gifts every year for people?
Yeah.
Like that's like a whole
Gifts.
separate part of financing, because it's like, you know, if you have X amount of people in your life, how many like gifts are like you getting them like a year? Another thing I thought of, my cousin was telling me that she's in like her mid-20s. She's been to like multiple weddings, like or like she might be in like her later 20s. But I never even brought that into account, how much it costs to like
It's thousands
just
of
go
dollars.
to a wedding,
Yes,
or
it's
like
crazy.
be in a wedding,
Yeah.
right? So like just hearing that, like that's like a mini vacation that you're going to be in like this other person's wedding, and like
Yeah, life is becoming more
yeah.
expensive, and
Yeah.
we're also going into a period of time where we haven't seen inflation like we are starting to see right now in a long period of time. So the price of, you know, cars, of
Yeah,
chicken, of
gas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be going up, at least for a little while.
Yeah, and that's even like a little hard to like predict as like an average citizen. Like maybe
Right.
maybe I make this plan, but I didn't like take into account like inflation and how like, okay, these things are gonna be more expensive by the time I get to this point in my life.
Yeah,
You know?
and right. So you have to make sure you have the right investments, so that your investments, like that's why, you know, you don't want to just put your money into a savings account for retirement, because it's never going to beat out inflation.
Right.
So you need to really make sure you have the right investments. But yeah, right now they're saying it might be a little bit more of a transition period, the end of the pandemic, and, you know,
Sure.
getting supply chains back together and people back into work and all that stuff. But at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, we might be seeing real inflation, and people are going to, you know, it's going to be hard to pay for things when you weren't anticipating paying this much, and your wages aren't going up as fast as it's going to cost you to fill that grocery cart.
Yeah, that's another like scary thing is, you know, let's say I say, you know, I want this amount for retirement. That amount, like the value of that amount is going to be completely different by the time you retire.
Right.
So that's why, like, I guess it would be important to like get new investments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need to start to get better. I'm not like invested, and I've been trying to get into it. A few people have told me like they've become really successful off of, like the crypto stuff. Not a crypto person, Miss Al.
I think it's cool and interesting, but it's
Sure.
more of like a speculatory thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's more of a gamble.
Right.
I think you could get into it and make a whole bunch
Sure.
of money, or you could
Lose a lot of money.
lose a whole bunch of money. It's like going to Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more, you would like a traditional stock would be more like reliable and like a good company.
Yeah, or an index. Yep.
Sure.
So like when you graduate and you get your first job,
Yeah.
they're probably going to offer you like a 401k and a retirement plan. So
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
make sure that you're invested in that right away. So your
Right.
company is probably going to match a little bit with that, and then it'll just grow and grow on itself too.
Yeah.
It'll compound.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. There's so much like complexity that like I don't even like understand as like someone who just graduated high school to
Yeah.
like financing. And I think like it just kind of takes like that experience and like living it, and like some failure, but hopefully nothing like too
Yep.
too big. But I think it does take some like mistakes along the way for
Yes.
people to sometimes realize like, oh, I need to like finance better. So,
Right. It does. But I think it's important to talk to people that know what they're talking
Right.
about too. Like
'Cause you
there's
can get
definitely
ahead of it, yeah.
experts out there that can help.
Yeah, I mean, why make the mistake if like you don't have to, you know?
Right. But
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
everyone's gonna make mistakes, and
Yeah, that's
can
just
learn
how it
from
is. It's so crazy like how much like, you know, big a part of your life money is and like financing is, because it's so important, and like, you know, you live day to day with like money in your pocket, but it's like this is like your life, like, you know, it just has such a big impact on your life, and the idea that, you know, it only does because we all agree that it does, you know.
I know.
Money only works because we all say, okay, I'll accept this dollar bill for this food at the grocery store, you know.
That's right.
So, I mean, like the idea that we all just subscribe to that is crazy in and of itself.
It is. But
So.
it's been happening for thousands of years,
Yeah,
right?
with all different, like why, you know, just because, like, yeah, even way back, like gold is just this shiny metal, but we assign these things value.
Yeah,
So.
and it'll be even more interesting to see what happens with cryptocurrency, as you mentioned before, to
Right.
see who starts accepting it as a form of payment.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was originally intended to be, is just another form of payment.
Right.
But now it's like people are,
It's like a game now. Yeah.
gambling on it, I guess, because
Yeah.
they're investing.
Sure. Yeah. It is interesting because, like, I guess, you know, before it became this big investing and gambling thing, like, what makes, like, a Bitcoin different than a dollar bill, you know? Like, I guess a dollar bill is, like, feasible, but yeah, it's a piece of paper. So what means this piece of paper has more value than this, like, coin, you know? So that's just a whole nother, like, rabbit hole there.
It is.
And I couldn't imagine trying to, you know, finance my cryptocurrency and my normal currency. So I don't think I'm going to be getting into the cryptocurrencies. I don't think it's for me.
Me neither. But maybe I'll never say never.
No.
You know? You never
But,
know.
You know, maybe someday we'll be, you know, rich with Bitcoin, but you never know.
It's true.
Never know how it's going to go. Well, this has been a great conversation, Mrs. Howell. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've definitely, like, thought a lot more about things I didn't, like, think about before. That's what usually happens on these episodes. But just so many different ways to go about financing, and so many different, like, ideologies people have about it. So I hope that, you know, all the viewers out there do end up being financially successful and, you know, are careful with financing. Because, you know, every time I talk about this topic, I get, like, a little nervous. I'm like, ooh, am I being safe with my money? I'm like, I don't want to mess this up. But
Well, it's good that you think about it,
I
though.
think as long as I think about it and I'm careful, you know, I think that I'll turn out okay.
You will.
All right, well, this was the season finale of Fireside Philosophy. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the whole series. If you haven't seen the other episodes, make sure you go back and check them out. This is the last episode. Thanks for watching.